What makes a smartphone compatible with a mobile network? Find out here in the US Smartphone Compatibility Guide. First things first, when I say network compatibility, I'm talking about two things. A, can you activate a device on AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, or an MVNO like Cricket, Metro, or Visible? And B, will the quality of service on a network be reliable enough to provide at least a decent user experience? Because it's totally possible to activate a device on a network that will not work well on that network. So if you don't want to worry about compatibility at all, the safest option is to buy a device from a carrier to use with that carrier. Then, even if something's wrong, you usually have access to customer support to help you out. But what if you want to switch carriers and keep the phone you currently use? Then you first have to make sure the device is unlocked from the original carrier. Legally, all carriers have to allow you to unlock your phone to use with whatever carrier you wish, but only after a certain amount of time and or the phone has been fully paid off. The unlocking process varies by carrier, but it's often as easy as using a pre-installed app, or entering an unlock code that you've requested from the carrier, or you just might get to experience the sheer joy of calling customer support and walking through that process the slow way. Remember, patience is a virtue. Now, once your device is carrier unlocked, you can use it everywhere, right? No, not really. No. In the US, and around the world for that matter, different carriers use different network frequencies to carry voice and data signals back and forth. For example, your unlocked AT&T phone might work on Verizon, but it might not. To help with this, most carriers provide a free IMEI compatibility checker on their website to help determine if your phone has the proper physical hardware, in this case the frequency bands, to function on their network. Links to the big three are in the description below. A quick way to find the IMEI on your iPhone or Android is to open the dialer and enter *#06#. In case you're wondering, the IMEI is basically like a social security number for your phone. It's a unique ID that, among other things, allows the phone to be activated with a carrier or reported as stolen. Another thing to consider when using a phone from one carrier on a different network is that if you're shopping for a used phone and you see that it specifies a particular carrier, understand that the device is likely not paid off, or it hasn't been activated on the original carrier long enough to be unlocked. That might not be a problem, as long as you plan on staying with that carrier for a while. Just be warned that SIM unlocking a used device can either be very simple or nearly impossible, since you're not the original owner. Also, if you see that a phone is Google locked, iCloud locked, or blacklisted, don't buy that phone, since it will either take a lot of extra time and or money to restore the device to a usable condition, if it's even possible to get it unblacklisted at all, and it may never function on a US wireless network. Typically, blacklisted phones are devices that have been reported as stolen or have outstanding finance plans, and they'll be unable to use US networks for voice, text, or data. Some more things to consider when not buying from a carrier. Let's say you instead head to eBay, Amazon, or some other seller. In that case, you should do your homework on three things: the frequency bands, any whitelists, and voice over LTE capability. Frequency bands. Does it have the frequencies required? When you have the device in your possession, the online IMEI checkers are great, but when you're looking to purchase the device online, you probably won't have access to the IMEI. So you need to look up the bands that your carrier uses and compare them with the bands of the device. If the bands are not listed in the description of the device from the seller, you can use a site like GSM Arena to see that information. An important note: the device does not have to use every single frequency band available from your carrier to function on the network. So in 2021, it's important that the phone have most of the LTE bands. And if 5G is important to you, then at least one of the 5G bands. Missing bands will technically reduce the performance of the device on the network, but it might still be totally acceptable. If you want to dig further, you can go to cellmapper.net and find the cell towers around your area, then look at the most deployed bands. Keep in mind that urban areas will have more coverage using more bands than rural parts of the US. So the same phone that has great signal strength in Chicago might only be barely usable if you drive an hour from the city. Whitelists. Some carriers have published lists of devices that are allowed to work on their network, so-called whitelists. It's not a bad idea to check the whitelist if you're concerned about a particular device not working on a given network. Just know that these lists aren't exhaustive, and there are usually plenty of phones that'll work on these networks even if they're not on the whitelist. VoLTE. Not only do carriers often use different frequency bands for their networks, but even the specific technologies that carry voice and data over a network can differ. Arguably, the most important of these is VoLTE, or Voice over LTE. This is a feature that is required by many carriers in the US, and even currently supported devices will not be supported in the future if they're missing this feature. Other features like HD voice, which can sometimes be another name for VoLTE, and voice over Wi-Fi also come into consideration, but they're not as widely adopted as voice over LTE. I really hope this has helped you understand smartphone compatibility a little bit better. And please leave a comment if there's something I need to include or if you have any questions. I'm happy to help. And if you found this guide useful, please give it a like, and thanks for watching.